truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live, New York City. A little bit earlier today, obviously, breaking news on the campaign trail, or off the campaign trail. So this morning I had to wake up early to go watch my niece, who's 8 months old and sick. First diaper change ever. And I'm laying in bed with my niece, who will not stop crying. It's unbelievable. I mean, 2 hours with a sick child could feel like 2 days. I'm sure many of you know. So I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, I'm getting ill from the crying. God bless her. Thank God my mother is now watching her. And I see this alert about Bernie Sanders, and I just got a pit in my stomach before I knew the details that, obviously there was an incident on the campaign trail last night where he was not feeling great, was having chest pains, went into the hospital and had 2 stents put in due to an artery blockage. At first glance, I'm no doctor, at first glance that sounds pretty serious. But the more I've kind of looked into it and, heard cardiologists, a couple programs, spoke with cardiologists, this is really a routine thing that's not specifically age-related. I mean, I know somebody that in their 20s had this done for a blocked artery. Obviously, every person is different, so there's instances where, somebody could have this procedure, have stents in, which essentially, keeps the artery open and goes out and plays golf later in the day. Whereas others, probably due to age, need to be monitored a little longer. It might take a little bit longer to bounce back. But I'll read you the official story. And remember, right now we got 420 people watching. 126 of you have pressed the like button. So I need a lot more people to press that like button. It's a thumbs up button right under the video. More people that press the like button, the more people that will see the live stream. So again, he was on the campaign trail last night and was having chest pain. Quote from his campaign: following medical evaluation and testing, he was found to have a blockage in one artery and 2 stents were successfully inserted. Senator Sanders is conversing and in good spirits. He will be resting up over the next few days. We're canceling his events and appearances until further notice, and we will continue to provide the appropriate updates. He felt discomfort, like I said, despite his age. He's been campaigning, one of the most active campaigners. They left something out there, which I'll get into in a minute. This is from a cardiologist. Quote, if a stent is chosen to treat his blocked artery, it's good news in some ways because it must not be that much of a severe, diffuse, or multiple blockages that would require bypass surgery, said a cardiologist from Mount Sinai. This is a procedure that former President Bill Clinton has had, I believe, multiple times. I believe President George W. Bush has had this procedure. And again, it's not age-related. I mean, anyone can have stents put in or have an artery blockage. You could have it in your 20s and your 30s, so it's not due to Bernie Sanders' age. But again, I'm not a doctor, but stress does play a part in these things. Also, poor diet, those kinds of things. Listen, for anyone who's been following the campaign, but who's just been following politics and progressive politics, this man has not stopped campaigning since 2015. I know because I campaigned. I covered Trump, Bernie, Clinton, a bunch of others for probably eight months, 8 to 10 months, give or take. I was not on the road full time. That's it. I was on the road probably 2.5, 3 weeks out of the month. Bernie Sanders launched his first campaign in 2015 in the spring. He's been campaigning ever since. After he lost the primary, he was on the campaign trail for Hillary Clinton, a grueling schedule, campaigning for Hillary Clinton, which made a lot of you mad more than anyone else. After Hillary Clinton lost, Bernie Sanders was zigzagging the country, trying to prevent Trump from repealing Obamacare, going to Mississippi to stand with Nissan workers, going to Kentucky, going to a lot of red states, going on, call it a listening tour, call it whatever you want. It's not like Bernie Sanders, like, kind of quietly, just went back to the Senate and worked 3.5 days a week like the rest of them. He's been barnstorming the country for now almost 5 years, if you believe that. So whether you're 78 or 33, eventually that's going to catch up to you. Now, who knows? I'm not a doctor. Who knows what caused this? Again, has nothing to do with his age. You could have a blocked artery at any age. But it's exhausting for me, a 33-year-old, to go take a flight from New York to, let's say, Detroit, then get a rent-a-car and drive to Flint, and then turn around and do a lot of interviews. That's exhausting. It's exhausting when I'm on the road reporting, and you don't really get much downtime other than like when you're done with your interviews at night. And usually after that, you're transcribing interviews, this and that. It's exhausting. Jen could attest. This man, possibly other than Warren, on the campaign trail, has done more events than anyone else. He's also, beyond just regular rallies, he has gone to Walmart's shareholders meetings. He has gone to strike with, I believe, McDonald's, Wendy's workers and other strikes he's been part of. On, I believe it was it Memorial Day or Labor Day? One of those. 4th of July, excuse me. He walked, I think, in a parade for hours. So this is somebody who has done a lot. And eventually, whatever the case may be, yes, if you can't see, this is Don't Forget Flint shirt with water bottles. So we will have an update on Flint in a little bit. I'm working with Jen on a investigative story. Flint has an airport, Jordan. Yes, lithium, but we're kind of, we're a small mom and pop shop here at Status Quo. We're not rolling in it. If you don't know, the Flint airport is more pricey from New York. So that's why we're raising money and trying to grow Status Quo. Flight from New York is cheaper going to Detroit than it is going to Flint. That's why we fly into Detroit and then drive to Flint. You could help us out. We just passed $76,000. I didn't want to push I don't want to push it that much because this is a serious topic. Not trying to, make money off of Bernie's blocked arteries or anything. But, we're less than $9,000 to go for the ultimate goal. And I'll be live again at our normal time later, 5 o'clock Eastern. Pitch in any amount if you can. So there's the reality that, to me, I'm not going to lie to you, when I first heard this, I was a little nervous. And I'll get to that later. Because I think anything having to do with Bernie Sanders' health opens up another question, which we'll get into in a little bit. But at first, I was nervous. I'm not nervous anymore because this is a routine procedure. He should be out of the hospital probably in a day or two. He's probably going to rest for a couple days. It's October 2nd. Next debate, October 15th. Unless something else happens, there's no reason to think that he won't be in that debate. Appreciate your positive Bernie kudos, unlike MSM. Thank you, Copperness Tinker. yes, the corporate media in the few, again, I was watching my niece, so I haven't seen much of the corporate media coverage of this Bernie surgery. But what I've seen, they pointed out that he's had a very active campaign schedule, but they didn't point out the fact that he's been campaigning way before the actual 2020 campaign. He has not stopped. I mean, I know somebody that works for Bernie Sanders on his team. He's around my age, is exhausted trying to keep up with Bernie Sanders. So far, the comments have been pretty diplomatic. You had Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden's campaign, Mayor Pete, all the other campaigns send out well wishes, this and that. I haven't seen anything from other campaigns trying to subtly infer, Bernie's too old or, he should drop out. We haven't seen that yet. So far, again, I haven't seen any of the coverage. Jen watched CNN, MSNBC. So far, they're not dancing on his political grave yet. But that's right now. He's still in the hospital, folks. Let's keep it real here. It doesn't matter if Bernie Sanders had a Band-Aid on his finger. It doesn't matter if Bernie Sanders, had a slight ear infection. The corporate media, let's just not be naive, will use this against Bernie Sanders. They're not going to explain that this is a routine procedure. President Bill Clinton has had it. President George W. Bush, many others have had this, particularly in men. This is going to go into the narrative that Bernie's time has passed. That, he's 78 years old. Maybe this isn't that serious, but other health complications could come up. This is an added layer. I hate to get into the political part, but it's true. This is an added layer that his campaign is going to have to compete with. And Bernie Sanders, I could tell you from experience, not with having a stent put in my heart, but Bernie Sanders also has some choices to make. Because from everything I'm reading, a lot of people bounce back from this very quickly and feel younger than ever. Other people, it's more serious. So like anything in medicine, in health, everyone's different. Every person's body deals with things differently. Bernie Sanders, I believe, takes medication for a thyroid issue. He has had gout, which a lot of people have gout. I know he had a hernia in the past, but there's no serious health issue that he has had. And the thyroid issue, everything I know is it's under control with medication. So this should not be an issue other than the optics, which I believe they will use against him in very soon. So Bernie Sanders has some choices to make. His campaign temporarily canceled or postponed. He was about to do his first set of television ads all across Iowa. They postponed that, which makes sense, kind of a little difficult to have television ads in every market in Iowa, showing you as a fighter when you're, in the hospital and all that. But he's going to have to make some choices because honestly, Bernie Sanders was going at a pace that was faster and more thick than any other candidate. I mean, typically the emails we see on his events is he was cramming in 2 to 3 events per day. Sometimes on top of the events going to strikes and those kinds of things. That's a lot. Not to mention flying cross country, finding time to eat, with your campaign or Jane, who's on the road with him a lot. So he's going to have to make choices whether he wants to scale that back a little bit. I think, health comes first. So obviously there's a way to keep a vibrant schedule, but also, follow your health. But I expect, I'm not a doctor, but I totally expect him to be in that Detroit, Ohio debate coming up on October 15th. And you know what? I don't want to play politics on a health issue. It might work for him. I mean, everybody loves a comeback, right? And everybody wants to see a fighter. And I also think Bernie Sanders' campaign, if you want to, make lemonade out of lemons, let's see how much that hospital bill was, because people were yelling at me on Twitter for attacking Chelsea Clinton. Let me show you what the Clintons had to say about this, because I think Bernie could use this to his advantage. Hillary just happened to be on She happened to be on The View when this news broke. Let's see what they had to say.
So, you just heard about Bernie.
Yes.
Sending
Let's all
your best.
wish him and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have chest pains, please go to the doctor.
Yes.
You know, particularly men, because although heart disease is more pervasive in women, it's more fatal to men because men wait too long.
Yeah.
So I just am so grateful that Senator Sanders had a chest pain yesterday and immediately went to the doctor, which is what we hope any man in our lives would do.
Yeah.
So, thank you for being a good example, and
Yeah.
I hope he gets.
So that was Chelsea Clinton and Hillary Clinton. First of all, I don't want to be too judgy. Did you see Hillary Clinton's face when she was? Oh, you couldn't see the video? Ay vey. Let me play it again. Hold on.
So, you just heard about Bernie.
Yes.
Sending
Let's all
your best.
wish him and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have chest pains, please go to the doctor.
Yes.
You know, particularly men, because although heart disease is more pervasive in women, it's more fatal to men because men wait too long.
Yeah.
So I just am so grateful that Senator Sanders had a chest pain yesterday and immediately went to the doctor, which is what we hope any man in our lives would do.
Yeah.
So, thank you for being a good example, and
Yeah.
I hope he gets.
So, listen, I don't want to go too hard on my friend Hillary, but boy, was that face strained. Was that face strained when she said, we wish Bernie well. Oh, does anyone have the plug? Sorry, I'm just keeping it real. Hillary Clinton did not look exactly so worried about Bernie. Maybe she's still got a little, bitterness against Bernie. But what I found interesting, and some people critiqued me on Twitter for criticizing her, only really wealthy white people. And I'm not saying, I'm sure Chelsea Clinton and Bernie, Chelsea Clinton and Hillary, aren't there, hoping Bernie kills over. But only wealthy, out-of-touch people, like the Clintons and their political followers, think it's just as easy as going to the doctor. If you have chest pain, just go to the doctor. This is the fight. This is the point of what Bernie Sanders is fighting for. Bernie Sanders has very, very generous health care from the United States Senate. Many people, particularly men, if they were having tight chest pain, would not go to the doctor. Would just, it'll go away, or let me take a Tylenol, or whatever, because I just can't afford it. I can barely afford the premiums for my health care, but I just can't afford to go to the doctor. I remember I covered in Miami in 2016 a strike of airport workers at Miami International, and I was talking to one member of the union there, and he was telling me I don't think it was chest pain, but I remember he was saying he gets something severe, some body pain. It might have been chest. I'd be lying if I remembered, but something severe, and he gets it a lot, and he feels it basically kind of in his chest, in his arms, and he just doesn't go to the doctor because he can't afford he can't pay his deductibles or anything like that. So if only everybody, could just afford to follow Chelsea Clinton's advice. This is why Bernie Sanders is fighting for Medicare for all. And by the way, I think Bernie Sanders would tell you this. If you gave him a choice between being president of the United States or Medicare for all becoming the law of the land, you could only have one or the other. Not a doubt in my mind, he would choose not to be elected president if he knew that was going to pass. This has been the political fight that he has carried with him when it was not popular, when it was not having majority support. He's been saying this since the 1980s, while Elizabeth Warren keeps waffling, keeps, going with the wind on Medicare for all, as I reported to you yesterday. Peace power. Status quo. I had a heart attack, and it took me 5 months to get my insurance company to let me have a heart catheterization. Supposed to be done the next day. You just said it. You just said it. So, again, what Chelsea Clinton said, I wish it was meant maliciously. I think the Clintons and the Democratic Party elite and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, they actually, because they don't have to struggle for anything themselves, they're so out of touch. It doesn't even cross their minds that it would have to register in people's minds whether they should go to the doctor if their chest was hurting. And by the way, how many people do you think, a blocked artery rises to a fatal heart attack because they didn't go to the doctor? So this is what it's all about. This is what Bernie Sanders is fighting for. Let's show you a couple of his supporters. Ro Khanna, co-chair of his campaign. Bernie's a fighter. Today we stand with him and Jane Sanders. His campaign is about resilience in the face of adversity and empathy for the vulnerable. This will only inspire him and all of us to fight harder. See you on the trail. That's Ro Khanna. Amy Viella, who ran for Congress in Nevada in 2018. Bernie Sanders is a fighter. I'm 45. Campaigning was draining for me, and he can run circles around me. While he recovers, you know what to do. Make calls, knock those doors. He'll be back in no time, and we've got work to do. We're all in this together. And David Sirota, who's his speechwriter. I've known Bernie for 20 years. He is the hardest working human being I've ever known. He never stops fighting for the 99%. He is a true warrior, and we are all glad he is doing okay. Send good vibes to him today. So that's just a few of his campaign people and supporters. And obviously, this is Dana. I had a seizure on Friday and would not have gone to the ER because of $1,000 deductible if I hadn't hit my head on the floor. So, honestly, we don't know how this is going to go. I know the media well enough to know they will use this against Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Orange Tang, $5 in the super chat. This is a super chat if you're feeling super, and we are trying to raise money on our GoFundMe. We are now, we just hit $76,100, so now $900 from $77,000, and whatever the math is on that, we're less than $9,000 to go to finishing this GoFundMe, and we will have some news on upcoming reporting trips we'll be taking. I'm working on that in the background, trying to book some things to hit the road and get back in the field. So it will be used against him. Warren's not going to use it overtly, but I do think her allies, CNN, MSNBC, after a few hours have passed, you'll hear panels talking about, Bernie has faded, the polls show him in a distant third, yada, 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 and maybe his time has passed. We wish him well, but, he's 78 years old. Things like this happen, even though, again, this is not age-related. So they will be pushing for Bernie Sanders to back out and drop out. I also think this could be an opportunity for Bernie Sanders. Again, show us your medical bills. I'm sure without your Senate health care coverage, probably thousands of dollars just for this procedure, which, again, is a routine procedure. This was not bypass surgery, but even routine procedures costs a lot. I had an endoscopy in December. I have health insurance. I got a bill for $700. I still haven't paid it. I don't know why I have a bill for $700. I had already paid my insanely high deductible, but I still got a bill for $700. And an endoscopy, definitely not as in depth than putting stents in a blocked artery. So it will be used against him, but I think, listen, he could use the medical costs. He could also use what I just showed you, that most people cannot get immediate, quick care like he had. Most people could not afford several days in the hospital for observation if they could afford a couple hours in the hospital. Most people, I don't know if he was taken by ambulance. We don't have those details. But most people, just an ambulance can really put them into bad shape because that costs a lot of money, much less an ambulance by helicopter. That's even more expensive. So these routine costs if you don't pay it, there goes your credit. And if you do pay it, or, how does one pay all the other bills? Increasing housing, increasing education costs, increasing food, you name it. Everything is going up. But as I show you over and over, while all these costs go up, including healthcare, this is how wages have gone up. Particularly with our productivity going up, that's your wages. Flat. Essentially. So this is what Bernie Sanders is fighting for. And honestly, Dalton, my ambulance cost $3,000. Another thing, by the way, we almost have 1,000 people watching. Only 546 of you have pressed the like button. So we need over 500 more of you. Press that thumbs up button. It's right under the video. The more people that press the thumbs up button, the more people that will see this live stream. But there was another thing that I thought about when this news came. Even though this is not, I don't think this is serious. Again, obviously he's going to be monitored. He is 78, but this is a routine procedure. A blocked artery has nothing to do. You could be 78 or 28, doesn't matter. Your diet, stress, all those things. But one thing that crossed my mind is I don't think like our viewers or progressives take it for granted, but I really think we take for granted just naturally how rare Bernie Sanders is. God forbid if Bernie Sanders had to drop out, for whatever reason, who's going to pick up the progressive torch from Bernie? I mean the actual progressive torch, not these faux-gressives or, progressive people during the primary, but then they'll take your money. I'm talking to you, Elizabeth Warren. Like, there's not a deep bench of capital P, unrelenting progressives. Not even to like jump into the presidential race, but to pick up where Bernie left off. That is how rare and singular of a figure Bernie Sanders is in American politics and the progressive movement. Sure, Nina Turner. Sure, Ocasio-Cortez. But you could have figures, but there is no one like Bernie Sanders, politically speaking. So that is why this opportunity right now in front of you is so important. This man, frankly, and I've seen it, has been carrying the weight of the world on him. And also, it's stressful. Listen, I could tell you, a couple years ago, obviously, I had an issue that went public and a lot of arrows coming my way. This man gets this every single day from not only the media, not only the capitalist class, not only other campaigns, all over the place. This man has criticism coming his way. That's a lot. I mean, literally, I believe, who was it? Let me find the tweet. I tweeted this yesterday, which I said at the time, this is a great campaign ad for Bernie Sanders, but obviously he's got more important things to worry about at the moment. This was the head of Blackstone. That really, really sleazy firm. Maybe Bernie Sanders shouldn't exist, says Blackstone Schwartzman in response to Bernie saying billionaires shouldn't resist. Clad with, the wonderful, what are those things called at the end of your suit? Cufflinks, the fantastic socks, the wine over there. What it takes to be a douchey billionaire. So, Schwarzman. So, this guy has had a lot of stress on his plate for many, many years. And there is no one to stand in for him. As much as I like Ocasio-Cortez, who I don't even think could run for president for several years, I don't even know if she'd be eligible in 2024. Jen, you'd have to check me on that if she'll be 35 by election day 2024. But I love Ro Khanna. I love Nina Turner. Tulsi Gabbard, love has turned into like. Not in love with her moonwalking on Medicare for all. And for those, Tulsi fanatics out there saying I'm smearing her or not understanding what she's saying, I mean, she said she wants to keep private health insurance and give people a choice. This is the talking point. I mean, it's basically what Biden wants to do, what Buttigieg wants to do, and O'Rourke wants to do. I don't think her motives are as bad as them, but I think she's uninformed on the issue, frankly. You can't have a vibrant Medicare for all and have parallel care. You can't have, you need a single payer. So you can't have Medicare for all as a government program if you also have a vibrant private health insurance industry. It doesn't work. So I've gone a little lukewarm on Tulsi. So, Jordan, she said she supports Medicare for all. Mike, she could say whatever she wants. And again, I like Tulsi Gabbard. I love her foreign policy. But if you look into what Medicare for is, you can't have Medicare for all and what we have now, a vibrant private health insurance industry. It doesn't work with a vibrant private health insurance industry. It is redundant care. A Medicare for all system only works if you have it as the single payer. That doesn't mean you can't have private doctors. You can, if somebody wants to spend the money and go see a private doctor, more power to you. But I think she is misinformed on the topic. And frankly, she says she's heard from a lot of Americans who want to preserve their choice. I don't know what Americans she's hearing from on this issue that want to preserve choice. Yes, Canada has private care. There's a difference between private care, private doctors, and a very, very, very vibrant and expansive private health insurance industry. The industry, private doctors are one thing. A massive industry that buys off your politicians, that essentially runs Washington, D.C., makes Medicare for all not possible. So, again, you have to separate having private doctors, which, sure, there's private doctors in other countries with a government health care program. But government health care is what the majority of citizens are on, not private doctors. So, not to go off into a segue. So, not to contradict you on Medicare for all and private insurance at the same time, Jordan, I don't know what's contradictory. You can't. Canada has what Tulsi is saying. Then Tulsi needs to outline a plan, which I haven't seen from her yet, that explains how you're going to have the government as a single payer and a pretty significant private insurance industry. I don't know how you do that. I've spoken with Medicare for all experts, particularly Michael Lighty from the Sanders Institute. I don't know how you do that. I really don't. I'd love to hear it from her. And I think Tulsi Gabbard supporters, frankly, if you take off the Tulsi goggles for a second, if Elizabeth Warren was saying this, you wouldn't be reacting the same way. It seems that a lot of the Tulsi Gabbard supporters are reacting negatively to people who critique her on this because they're Tulsi Gabbard supporters and they're frankly biased. If Bernie Sanders came out tomorrow and proposed this, I'd be saying the same thing. So, I think if you took off your Tulsi glasses, if Kamala was saying this, if Elizabeth Warren was saying this, if America's Boy Scout, Pete Buttigieg, was saying this, I think you'd be singing a different tune, folks. Just keeping it real. But back to Bernie. So, again, I think Bernie, this does not end his campaign, but I will warn you, probably within the next 24 hours, this is going to be the narrative and messaging you're seeing on CNN, on MSNBC. They're being a little diplomatic now, while he's still in the hospital. That will change. As they have shown you, they will use anything to knock this guy out. And frankly, the more polls I look at, I'm not a polling truther, but the more polls I look at, I don't think we're seeing the full support of what Bernie Sanders actually has. One example is this Monmouth University poll. Has Elizabeth Warren at 28%, has Biden at 25%, and Bernie at 15%. Well, that's not good. Well, when you actually look at the poll, like I have, they look at 400 or so Democratic voters. Look at the age breakdown of these polls, which is never discussed. Well, 28% are age 18 to 34, Bernie's base. Sure, he has older voters' support, but his core is that 18 to 40, 72%. 72% of this poll is between, well, that's a very wide age range, between 35 and death. And in that 35 to 54, I don't know how many are 45 and older. This 35%, the 35 to 54, that's a pretty big age group. Bernie typically does best under 40, So I'm assuming the majority of those within that 35 to 54 are over 40 years old. So these polls, of course Bernie Sanders is going to be in a distant third if the majority of people you're polling are over the age of 50. Poll after poll shows this. That's why I think Bernie Sanders' campaign, they haven't done a great job explaining it. They haven't done a good job explaining it. But, you know, I think Bernie Sanders' campaign is doing something others aren't. They are targeting very aggressively people who do not vote. And those people will not show up on polls. So although the polls, frankly, have looked very good for Elizabeth Warren the last few weeks, they have looked very, they have shown Bernie Sanders sliding in a lot of these polls. I look at certain polls and it's absurd that they are put forth as part of the narrative that Bernie is so 2016, he's got no shot, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, if you're only going to poll people over 50, he's not going to poll as well. So I think, honestly, obviously, we need to see what happens with his health. Again, based on medical experts, this is not a serious thing. But we have to monitor it over the next days and weeks. But I think you could see an upset for Bernie Sanders in Iowa because I don't think his true base is being reflected in these polls. And it's not in Bernie Sanders. He's not going to just give up. So it remains to be seen. We'll obviously update you if there's any developments. So far, they're only canceling events for a few days. And good, because honestly, the man needs rest. Whether you're 78 or 38, I mean, he's been going at a very, very full throttle pace for a long time. And personally, this is partly why I've always said I think, and you know, if Tulsi supporters don't like it, so be it. I've always thought the perfect running mate for Bernie is Nina Turner, both because I think Nina Turner is a modern marvel. I think Nina Turner means what she says. She's genuine. I think she's vibrant. To me, Nina Turner is kind of like Obama, only not full of shit. Oop, demonetized. She means it. And I'm not a religious person, but I'm ready to go to church with Nina Turner. But Nina Turner also is a lot younger than Bernie Sanders. Jordan, if Bernie, God forbid, was forced to drop out because of his health, who would you support from there? I'm not going to do a hypothetical. But if he drops out, it would be hard for me to support any of these Democrats. Once it's against Trump, I'll reconsider. I've said, a lot of you don't like it. I don't think Elizabeth Warren is Hillary Clinton, and I think Trump needs to be defeated. I think he's doing a number on the environment. So come the general election, I'll have to consider the options. But I can't sit here and tell you I'd be personally supporting Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, any of these people. But I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to drop out. So let's not get into the hypotheticals. And I also think that something that I've seen a few comments in the super chat. This is a super chat. We're also trying to grow this GoFundMe. Thank you. We just got another donation from Edwin, $10. Sandy, $27. Now less than 900 away from $77,000. If you could drop a few bucks in the GoFundMe, we'd really appreciate it. We're also going to be live a little bit later at our normal time at 5 o'clock Eastern. So you'll have an opportunity either right now or later. Pitch in if you can. This is all so we have the funds to go out in the field, keep covering the issues the corporate media, particularly now with Ukraine Gate, is not going to cover. But I also think the people talking about that Canada and these other countries have private doctors. There's a difference between having a private option and having a private health insurance industry that dominates the government, right? That is a difference. So you might be saying in Canada or wherever you're watching from, we have private doctors. Right, but do you have a private health insurance industry that essentially buys off politicians and makes it so your government cannot negotiate drug prices? Canada's government, even with private doctors, are able to negotiate drug prices, are able to negotiate hospital costs, are able to negotiate with hospital providers, with pharmaceutical companies. That is a major difference. So you can have private doctors, they have them in Germany and Israel and a lot of other countries, but those governments are able to bring down the costs of healthcare because they are the predominant provider. That is the difference. So if Tulsi Gabbard has a bill that she's writing out or has a plan to make it so you could still have a private health insurance industry, but also have the government negotiate way cheaper drug prices, have price controls, not have massive deductibles. I'd like to see it. But I don't think it's possible, because if it was possible, Bernie Sanders would have proposed it by now, and many other Medicare for All experts would have proposed it. No offense to Tulsi. I happen to like her a lot. I don't think she's more of an expert on healthcare than experts on Medicare for All that I've spoken with, nurses who say it's not possible. Black Fa, $5 in the super chat. Anyone who says insurance, affordable, or choice isn't a progressive. Thanks for being objective, Jordan. I agree. And by the way, let's get back into the discussion. Affordable, if you believe what Bernie believes, if you believe what many people believe, including me, it shouldn't be affordable. It should be free. Healthcare should not be a commodity. It's a basic right of citizenship. And frankly, corporate Democrats for a long time have been buying into this affordable healthcare. Well, affordable for who? What's affordable to Joe Biden and Chelsea and Hillary Clinton might not be affordable to somebody in Flint right now, or Detroit, or Milwaukee, or Cleveland, or Philadelphia, or a lot of other areas. Poor white, poor black areas, poor Latino areas. So I'd like to know, affordable to who? Shouldn't be a price. Yes, you pay more in taxes so that your government provides the services. That's what it is. That's what it should be. So, that's about it. I'm going to have more at 5 o'clock. If we get any updates, I'll have them. We'll have a little bit more on Elizabeth Warren. We'll have some other stories for you. I'll see you in a bit. Remember, GoFundMe never sleeps. We are so close, folks. So close. I know it doesn't look close, but we've been growing this GoFundMe quick since we've started pushing it again. Less than $9,000 to go to our ultimate goal of $85,000. Joseph is here today, too, so we're going to be discussing the next trip we want to take in the field. Marcus is going to cover something this weekend that I think you're really going to like. I don't want to tell you what it is because it's so batshit bonkers what he's going to cover that I want it to be a surprise. I definitely want to get on the campaign trail soon. We're just waiting for a piece of equipment to arrive, and then we'll be off. So keep it coming in the GoFundMe, and I'll see you guys at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Remember, spread the word. Spread the coup. YouTube is doing its darndest to suppress this channel, other independent media channel. So like these streams, share these streams, put it in your phone. 5 o'clock Eastern time, we're live. YouTube's not going to notify you. Put it in your phone. We start uploading videos starting around 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. It is an information war, and YouTube currently is winning. And by the way, Jen pointed this out to me. If CNN all of a sudden is allowed to put bullshit on screen, because they're putting it in its graphics now, the term bullshit, why can't I say fuck you on YouTube? Can somebody explain that to me? Please. Talk to you a little bit later. Peace out.